What's going on, everybody? I'm here, Mark Lobliner, alongside Bryce Beal. We got a brand new podcast, don't we, Bryce?
Yes, sir.
What is it called?
It is called the Legacy Project.
Legacy Project. So what are we trying to do with the Legacy Project is we're trying to bring you information from the top strength coaches, technology companies, you name it, nutrition in the industry, in the world. And that's why I'm so excited about today, because as someone who has always been a fan of college football, as I delved into the strength community, I don't know if you know Dave Andrews over at Pitt and all these other guys, Alan Bishop. I'm a huge fan of a lot of what these guys do. And what's really great is you look at legacies, great name. You look at legacies, you look at Alabama, you look at LSU. And what makes them great, and what makes them great is beyond what the coaches do with the X's and O's. It's what the other coaches do, getting them ready for the season, which is why I'm so honored to have the guest we have on today.
Absolutely. It is Coach Tommy Moffitt. He is a former head strength and conditioning coach with 20 years plus experience. The amount of actual national championships and conference championships you have been a part of is astronomical. I can't even remember the number. I'm pretty sure it's a lot by all means.
How many national championships you got, sir?
So we've won 3. I've been a part of others, but 3 national championships.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is he is a absolute legend. I followed you for I don't know how many years now, and he's an absolute legend in the strength and conditioning community. He's been at the forefront of everything from strength, speed, agility. You look over the past 10 years of LSU football, they are always the most physical and always the fastest. Mm-hmm. In every sense of the word, they've been the most dominant as players, and it's all because of you and your staff.
Yeah. So tell us more about you. I mean, I'm excited. I get excited talking about health, and that's obviously what I've been. But like this is somebody who's actually put his theories into practice.
Oh yeah,
and created champions, created championship teams. Like that is. Remember we were having that conversation with the girls last night about what it means to win a state title?
Absolutely.
Imagine winning a national title. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, sir, please let us know more about you.
Yeah, so like I said before, when we were talking, I'm a Middle Tennessee native. I grew up in Springfield, Tennessee in a small farming community and started training with weights and became infatuated with the strength game early as a kid growing up. And I went to college at Tennessee Tech University in Cookeville. And while I was there, I had a phenomenal strength coach. His name is Jack Williams, and he actually still lives in Mount Juliet. So Jack was my strength coach and just did a great job, and he motivated me to be a coach. So after graduation, I wanted to stay in Middle Tennessee, but I knew that I wanted to be a strength coach. And, the year was 1987. And so I was going around to the high schools trying to get a job as a strength coach / football wrestling coach, and it just wasn't happening. So I had a friend out of the blue one day called me from New Orleans. We had been teammates at Tennessee Tech, and he told me that the strength job at his school where he played and where he was currently coaching, John Curtis Christian School, had an opening for the strength coach. The strength coach had left to go to Tulane to be an assistant. So I applied for the job and interviewed over the phone with Coach J.T. Curtis, the head coach and principal athletic director, and he owned the school. So I got the job and took off for New Orleans. And then from there, I was there for 6 years. In 6 years, we lost 4 football games, won 3 state championships. Wow. And we won. The school had never competed in the sport of Olympic weightlifting, so I started a weightlifting team. The first year we did it, we got beat by 70 points. The second year, we got beat by 30 points. The third year, we won the state championship. Wow. And then we went on and we won 3 more state championships. My last year there, I took 2 teams, and our 2 teams went first and second in the state weightlifting meet. So we got after it.
What's profound is that you're winning lifting titles and you're winning football and whatever you're winning sport titles. So that shows you there's a huge tie-in to strength and performance, right?
Right. Yes. So I left there because we had some players that were being recruited by, big schools. And I met a guy named Randy Sanders. He was the running back coach at Tennessee, and he was recruiting our school. And while I was, a coach, it was assistant coach's responsibility to watch our game tape with the college coaches. So if they were recruiting an offensive lineman, then when the college recruiter came in, I had to go in and sit with the college coach and watch the O-line film with the coach. So Randy, while one day we were watching film, he says, we got to open it in the weight room. Would you be interested in, coming back to Tennessee and coaching for the Volunteers? And I said, absolutely. So after a couple of, months of going back and forth, I ended up going for an interview and got the job at Tennessee. And I was there while Coach Fulmer was the head coach during the Peyton Manning years. So I coached there for 4 years. And then my first head coaching job was at the University of Miami. And we were in Miami playing Nebraska in the Orange Bowl, and I met one of the University of Miami coaches. He came over to our hotel to meet some of our coaches that he was friends with. And while we were in the lobby, we're just carrying on a casual conversation. And out of the blue, he says, hey, man, one of the reasons for me coming here is our strength coach is leaving. Would you be interested in the job at Miami? And I said, absolutely. And so I went over the next day and interviewed with Coach Davis, and he offered me the job. And I was only there 2 years. When Coach Saban got the job here at LSU, he called around and talked to some people, and somebody had remembered me from being a high school coach here in the state.
Wow. And
Coach Curtis, Coach Saban spoke, and JT recommended me for the job, and the rest is history. I was here for 22 seasons, 3 head football coaches. A wonderful time.
That's insane. So segueing into kind of, what do you think? Now I'm looking at a decorated history, and I didn't know about the University of Miami, the U. My dad went to the U, so I had to watch every game. I presented to the BYU soccer team 2 weeks ago with my one of the companies I have, Ambrosia. We actually are a partner with them. And it was funny because I'm walking through there, and I remember that year that Ty Detmer just destroyed Miami and upset them. And I think it was the first game of the year. And I'll never forget that. I'm walking through, and to know that you were at the U when I was literally, that's insane. Like that is, and all the teams that you've coached have been known for their physicality, their explosiveness, and their speed. Because remember, Miami they used to literally have undersized linemen who could just run circles around everybody. And so what I'm kind of trying to get at, like, what do you think as a strength coach? And obviously you're kind of the X factor because you've come to these programs and you're winning and you have tangible numbers to show that your methods work. What do you think it is about your methodology that sets it apart and helps to create these championship programs?
Well, there's a big emphasis on the development of speed strength. And performing, the explosive Olympic lifts, the snatch, the cleans, the jerks, and then all of the auxiliary exercises that go along with that, hang cleans, hang snatches, push press, a lot of plyometrics, sprinting. There's a lot of neat drills, and if you look on Instagram or YouTube, you're going to see a lot of really neat stuff. But the easiest thing to get explosive is to sprint. Sprinting is the most dynamic thing that you can do outside of lifting a barbell, a submaximal barbell really fast, or jumping. Running, skipping, hopping, jumping, and, performing exercises that require you to move weight very quick, very fast. And so it's really simple. There's no secrets to it. We've always performed ground-based exercises. And, so training the skill guys and then training the linemen, it can be a little different. The linemen have to be dynamic, just like a skill position player.
Mhm.
They also have to be very strong.
Yep.
There's a violent isometric contraction and eccentric contractions, and there's a lot of stuff going on when two big linemen collide with one another.
Yes.
So there's a little bit more that goes into training a lineman, especially a collegiate lineman, in the Southeastern Conference and in the Western Division of the Southeastern Conference. But the skill position players, the ones that we worked with were blessed with incredible natural speed anyway. And so it's not like we were changing their DNA, but we were selecting and sequencing and programming, very basic fundamental skipping, hopping, jumping, running exercises.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing, is the right sequence of exercises, like you said, because Instagram, everything on social media, all you see is the flashy, very accentuated drills that have, I'll say, zero correlation to move over to an actual sport, where the reality is moving a submaximal weight at max velocity is a key asset to, I'd say, almost any sport.
Yeah.
There is no perfect recipe for any of this, but people try to over infatuate the actual reality of, people think you have to be the strongest human being in the room, but strength is great. But at the same time, you have to be able to move yourself, which your body weight, at a max velocity as well. I think that's where people overcomplicate a lot of things, is they actually don't focus on the things we can really control all the time.
100%. 100%. And how many times I had to remind the kids, especially you've dealt with this, sir, as much as anybody, with, these big D1 guys who have some fame, right? Like the ego. You have to remind them that nobody cares how much you deadlift on the field, but that's a tool. So the key is form, explosion, make sure your tempo is right. And that's what's really cool, is that, so you find that as technology comes out, you talk about velocity, like the velocity training. Have you seen where it measures the velocity?
Oh yeah. We
use those.
Yes, we did a lot. Heck, I was a young coach at the University of Tennessee, and I met Louis Simmons, and Louis and Brian Mann are probably the two most influential people in our country when it comes to velocity-based training. So we bought a bunch of Tendo units. I guess it was 1994, 1995.
Oh, wow.
And then we started using the Tendo in our training at the University of Tennessee, not just with football, but with track and field, our shot putters, our sprinters, etc. And then we used those up until just a few years ago. We worked with a company called Perch. Mm-hmm. And Jacob Rothman, he just cold called me one day and asked me if I'd be interested in taking a look at their product. And so he sent me the product down, and we set it up in the weight room, and we started using it. We really liked it. It was really easy to work with. The interface was simple to understand. So we were the first school to purchase that product and install it in our weight room. So we had 22 perch units, and we probably had 20 Tendo units. So we used those and tracked the velocity of just about every exercise and drill that we did. We even put it on our players and had them go outside and strike the sleds, the blocking sleds.
Yeah.
To actually see what type of velocity, because you would read stuff and, it would talk about all this, and it was basically theories and ideas, but we wanted to actually see what was happening on the field. And with the Tendo, it was easy because it's got a big string on it. And so we just tied the string onto the back of our players' belts and had them go through different, movement patterns, drills on the sleds. Now, we were just looking at the linemen. We didn't look at the skill position players because the string wasn't long enough. But, yeah, we've done a lot of work with it. A lot. Not only we used it a lot for the high velocity training, but we also used it a lot in the slow velocity training also. Mm-hmm. So, monitoring the strength work that we did. So, yeah, we used velocity-based training a lot at LSU.
Gives me goosebumps.
No, that's awesome.
But, going in, I want to transition because of what you're doing now with your Moffitt method. Can you tell us about why that was created? What made you go in that path or direction? Because it seems like I don't know many people that do that or have that or the availability to do that for other schools. I haven't heard of many companies do that. So I'm interested to learn about that and hear about that.
Yeah. Well, so, it all started because I got bored. When hunting season ended this year, I didn't have anything else to do. So it started as a podcast. I was just going to do a podcast and bring on my friends and former assistant coaches and stuff and just talk training, like we're doing here today.
Yeah.
And so it grew from that, from us just doing a simple podcast to then we were going to develop training templates that we could sell to schools. And then from there, it grew into having remote coaches that actually worked with the high school, the sport team, sport organization, or junior college or whatever, whoever is interested in our type of training. We're going to have a product available, and it's a cloud-based system. We have an app, and so all the programming. So what we did, and we're still doing today, is we're putting all of the programming that we've done for 30 some odd years into the computer. So we'll have programming for all sports.
Wow.
And then based on the school's particular needs, we're going to adapt that programming for the school.
So, by the way, when we're done here, everybody listening to this, whether you're on Spotify or YouTube or Facebook, we're going to put that in the show notes, all the information, so you can check this out for your school, for your organization, a lot of clubs. So our goal with this podcast is to get information out, right? Like we want people to realize their goals, reach their potential, and you're someone who could help them. And this is definitely something like this guy's tried and true. Like this is the pinnacle of strength right here.
Yes, absolutely.
The pinnacle. What a first episode. What a first. So this is great. This is phenomenal. So we'll have that going down below, YouTube, wherever you're at. So you have this going. So how are you able to monitor, let's say, a school and make sure their form's on point, their velocity when you're not actually there? Is there a program for the coaches? Like, how do you get on the same page? Because, a lot of what we do as coaches is correcting form and making sure kids don't get hurt. And a lot of times, you see this with CrossFit. CrossFit, when you learn CrossFit and you do a lot of movements that you use, that we use, are CrossFit movements as well, but it's the instructor. Generally, when CrossFit teaches CrossFit, it's the perfect form. And I am CrossFit certified, so I know this. But once it gets into practice and you throw in speed, load, and repetitions, it all goes to hell. Yeah. So my thing is, how are you able? So let's say that, we have a high school in Memphis. Say, I'm in. I want this. How are you able to get your expertise across on a basically a remote platform?
Great question. And that's the challenge with this type of product. So first of all, we're going to make sure that we hire the right people once we start marketing the product. That's going to be critical. So throughout the onboarding process of the product, there are questionnaires that we're going to have the coaching staff fill out. Okay. So things like the age of the athlete, the sports of the athlete, the lifting experience of the athlete, the coach's philosophy, and what his experience in the weight room is as well. Because our goal isn't to replace anyone. Our goal is to assist these schools in training their athletes. So let's say, for instance, you're at the first week of training. Well, so the first month of training is all technique based anyways. Mm-hmm. And technique is paramount. Technique, whether you're a 12-year-old just learning to do an exercise or you're a world champion, your technique is paramount. And nothing in our program will ever sacrifice technique over weight, velocity, or anything. Mm-hmm. All right. So there are videos for all of our exercises, and the videos are broken down with bullet points based on the broadening aspects of each exercise: the stance, first pull, the scoop, I call it, but the double knee bend, the second pull, rack, recovery. Let's just say we're talking about clean. So there'll be bullet points in the video. So every Sunday night, we broadcast the next week's training. The coach would have a preset on his dashboard. Our goal is to send the week's program to every athlete that's in the program, and he or she would receive it on their cell phone, their iPad, and their desktop computer or laptop. Mm-hmm. So the athlete is going to have this week's training at their for them to view on Sunday night. So they'll know exactly what they have to do for the week. Now, if the coach doesn't want to do that, all he has to do is push a button on his dashboard, and then the athletes won't see it. And he can control anything that he wants the athletes to see. Okay. Then we're going to have a remote coach that is responsible for making sure that those coaches are coached up on their technique. So there's an onboarding process for the coaches as well, because we want the coaches to be able to perform these exercises themselves. The workout will be able to be shown in the weight room on TVs. It will be on the athletes' cell phones if a coach would allow that. And then in a lot of weight rooms now, they have iPads or Samsung, the IBM compatible tablets on the racks as well. So we've gone the extra mile to make sure that there's going to be lots of examples of all these types of exercises. Now, to take it one step further, there's different levels. There's going to be a silver, a gold, a platinum level of this program. And for a fee, then one of our coaches, myself, Matt Bruce, my business partner, or any of the coaches in our program will actually come to your school and teach every person in your school how to snatch, clean, jerk, back squat, front squat, clean pull, deadlift, split squat, bench, incline, whatever the program is, we're at your disposal. We're going to be working for your school, and we're going to go the extra mile to make sure that it's done well. That's our job, and that's what we're in the business of doing. And then again, you're going to have that remote coach that's going to be with you. You can reach him by phone through 8 hours of the day. You'll be able to reach him by phone, text, or email. And every school is assigned a coach. And then it is that coach's responsibility to follow up with you throughout the day, week, month, and year, any questions that you have. Now, also, in addition to all of that, there'll be we're going to call them weekly staff meetings, where myself, my business partner, and our coaches, we're going to record videos that we send out that you, the coach, can watch, or you can play it in the weight room on the big screen, or you can broadcast our staff meetings out to your athletes, and they can have it on their phone also, where we are demonstrating the technique of all the exercises, what the week is about, what this month is going to be about, what this mesocycle, microcycle, whatever it is. And so our goal is to teach the student athlete and the coach how to perform all of these exercises and drills for strength and speed.
Oh, fantastic.
In a nutshell.
That's awesome.
That is one hell of an infrastructure you built.
Yeah. Well,
like I've built an app and it costs a lot of money. I hope you guys realize this isn't just some guy who got a rack rate app. This guy put time, effort, and money into this app. That is.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So everything is complete. We still have some programming that we have to do. And then the website, hopefully the website's complete in October. That's what we're hoping. Okay. But part of the onboarding process, if a coach isn't comfortable with having his athletes perform the snatch, then we're going to look for alternatives for that. So that's all a part of the onboarding process, is how what you're capable of coaching, what you're comfortable coaching. And then through that process, we learn a lot about the coach and the program and their philosophy. And then we're going to tailor that strength and conditioning program to each particular school.
Awesome.
And then we just send it out through the app.
Well, you probably know this better than anyone. And Coach Moffitt, there are so many apps out there that just give you the skittles of exactly what you're supposed to do. They don't give you the infrastructure like you're offering everyone.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's huge, because it's, I think, very similar to what we do. Mm-hmm. We have to be a complement to other staffs, whether mm-hmm. it's in person or at our facility, where it's exactly like his.
Yeah. That's the thing, is that as a strength coach, you have to go, like, for example, we have a basketball team that we coach that they do their warm up because it's their warm up. So I think the thing is, a strength coach complements a program. What's great about this is I've never seen, if you go on any of these apps that are available, and I don't want to just diss apps, because I think they have a place.
Yes,
right?
100%.
This is like the PhD of apps. Everything else is community college. This is a conformable. Yes. This is the next level of app, because you're conforming it to an actual school's needs, but doing it remotely, which I'm guessing will be, at a savings to the school. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's going to be a big saving over the school, and all of our coaches are certified strength and conditioning coaches. Just right now, with the small team that we have over 100 years of coaching experience. We have 5 master's degrees, 2 PhDs. So we've really, worked really hard to make sure that we have a qualified staff. And then we're going to have to constantly recruit and train, new coaches as we continue to grow. And then ultimately, our goal is to actually have a brick and mortar facility here in Baton Rouge where, 2 or 3 times a year, we'll be able to host the coaches that are using our program for a weekend of training here in Baton Rouge, where we can actually get hands-on with those coaches, have a Friday night social and then spend all day Saturday, half a day Sunday in the gym, outside on the turf, training the coaches up so that then they can take that information back and do an even better job with the protocols.
Just to expedite things, if you need a facility to use, you can always use ours. We'll gladly.
Hey, Nashville's a destination city too.
Hey, you know what? After you're done, you go to Broadway. You watch the little party trucks go by. Whatever you want to do. We're literally 20 minutes outside, but that's legit. We have a location. If you ever need a place to host an event on a weekend, we got you.
Yep, absolutely.
We'd be honored.
Thank you.
Oh, more than welcome. I mean, I got goosebumps.
It's weird. Stop.
Just saying, there's not much out there. Like you both said it, where it's all in the actual frame of the picture. It's built around school, kids, coaches. Like there's nothing built like that online.
No.
It's awesome that you're the one doing it with all the experience, all the knowledge, everything you've done for God. I can't even imagine how many kids you've trained over the last, 20, 25 plus years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I think it's awesome.
Appreciate
and then I'm excited. I'm excited to see how it's laid out. And then I think for going a little bit deeper into it, when it comes to seeing hundreds of athletes, if not thousands of athletes, what do you think kids should be prepared for at a younger age? Like you kind of said it, skill athletes obviously have the more speed velocity driven concept, where linemen have more of the strength speed concept, and I'll say overall max strength. Like what do you think kids should be preparing for in just a total variation of sport? What should kids be trying to do?
Yeah. So as far as training goes, I think the most important thing first is that you take your time and you develop great technique in all of the exercises, skills, and drills that you want them to perform. And that is, again, a major part of the Moffitt method, is to make sure that we spend anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks in general physical preparation each year, going back over and making sure that the most basic fundamental skill is perfected first. And then, I think regardless of what sport that your son or daughter or your program should emphasize, is going to be on speed first.
Yes.
And speed strength, because that is a limiting factor in almost every sport. If it doesn't matter if it's tennis or gymnastics, and even a sport like swimming, how you come off the blocks plays a huge role in how you finish in the sprints. And how you push off the wall in swimming has a huge part in the outcome of the distance events. So regardless of what sport it is, I think you have to be very dynamic and very explosive. And skipping, hopping, jumping, and sprinting is very important in that. And then through that type of work, you develop characteristics that are going to carry over into the barbell exercises.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important, so one of the reasons why this project of ours is so important, because it doesn't matter where I go, if I'm going to a wedding, a funeral, a bar mitzvah, a barbecue, or one of my kids' basketball games or a football game, there's always a parent that says, when should my son or daughter begin training?
Yes. Yes. And I want to hear this, because I'm thinking it's going to be where I go with it, but I'm always open for surprises.
Well, so my reply has always been, you wouldn't wait until your son or daughter was 12 or 14 years old to begin swinging a bat or before they swung a racket or shot a basketball. And I don't think you should wait until your son or daughter is 12 or 14 years old to begin training for sports. I mean, it makes no sense at all. If we waited until puberty to begin any type of sport participation, we would never get anywhere as far as high level development. Gymnasts spend their entire developmental years perfecting the technique of all of their movements, and then they perform those at a very high level at a very young age and with relative ease, because they didn't wait until they're 12. So from the time you're born, your body is getting stiffer and stiffer and stiffer.
Yes.
You grow stiffer every day. So
when you're born, you could bend their hand. My doctor, when my kid was born, Kim was born, they bent her arm. I'm like, what are you doing? And it's because they have to squeeze out of a small space.
Yeah.
It's literally an evolutionary thing. And it's great to hear this, because data has proven to us that the whole stunting your growth thing is I hate to say it's proven, but it's as close to proven as science can do. And so for me, just to interject, like, my daughter's been training since a very young age. Now she's 16. She's a standout, not because of superior genetics, maybe a little bit. I mean, I'm a pro athlete in a fake sport, but at the end of the day, it's just repetition. Like, it's repetition and it's training and it's form. And sorry to interject, but I just got so excited about the answer, because the first thing you hear when I post a video of my daughter deadlifting 380 pounds at 16 years old, hex bar for that, but straight bar, she has the state record in at 310. So when I post that, the first thing is you're going to stunt her growth. First of all, she's already taller than me, so I didn't even lift when I was that age. Secondly, every bit of data, and Travis Mash goes into, he has a great article on this. Every bit of data points to the contrary, that it's actually probably beneficial. Now, how would you address that? If, let's say, I'm a parent and I'm like, because you went over the practicing the gymnast thing, and be like, well, gymnasts are all short, whatever. So how do you address that? Like, someone's like, hey, are you stunting kids' growth?
Well, so that's perfect, because a lot of the girls that you see and boys that you see that play baseball and all these sports, or strong kids, they say, he lifted weights that stunted his growth. Well, that means that basketball would make you tall, correct?
Yeah. Well, and you bring up baseball, T-ball age. You're swinging, I don't know, let's say a -10 bat. You are swinging a inanimate object, and you are making it create velocity. So theoretically, you are lifting.
Yeah, you're lifting. And also, farmers. Are we forgetting about baling hay? Like, these kids are lifting 100-pound bales of hay at like 6. And don't forget Africans carrying like water on their head for long distances.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
Well, my analogy all the time has been one with basketball.
Yeah.
So, basketball doesn't make you tall. Volleyball doesn't make you tall. And lifting weights isn't going to make you short and stocky. Short and stocky people perform weightlifting exercise better, okay, because they have better levers. But that's not what made them short, stocky, and thick. The fact that they're short, stocky, and thick made them a better lifter than someone who might play basketball. So, they didn't play basketball very well. They weren't built to play basketball. So they chose a sport, or were successful in a sport or activity that their statute and their genetic predisposition exposed them to certain things, and allowed them to be able to be successful, and they had fun doing it. So they did it more often. Yeah, I'm a big proponent in starting them young and teaching technique, having them squat with the barbell when their flexibility is good. Yeah. So when my kids were young, I went out and I bought they were, you see them in health clubs, but they're they're a straight barbell, and they have like 10-pound weights on the side. And then, they start at like 7 pounds, but they're a barbell. They're like
a fixed barbell, I believe.
Yeah, fixed barbell. And you see them a lot in health clubs and stuff. So I went out and bought some and some dumbbells, and I put them under my son's bed when he was like 5. And my wife is like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm putting them under there. There's going to come a day where he's going to reach under the bed and pull those out and start playing with them." And instead of training,
you're doing that today, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're doing that literally. He has a young toddler.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing. I guarantee you're going to Dick's Sporting Goods. Don't go to Dick's. I got a guy, Steven. He'll get you the barbells.
So lifting weights became play. And it was something that they grew up doing in their bedroom with their buddies. And you would hear them in there dropping the weights and, making all kinds of noise. And they're in there playing with a 7, a 10, and a 12-pound barbell as little kids. And it grew into, it grew into a garage gym that their buddies. So my oldest son just turned 27. And when his buddies all get into town, they show up in the garage and they lift the same place that they started lifting when they were 8, 10, 12, 13 years old.
And they're 20. I love it. You and I are too much alike in this. So with my kids, I mean, they were born gym rats. I'm a pro bodybuilder, so my kids would go there. But what's funny is that, and we get this a lot because Bryce is, as you can tell, he's a really big guy. Looks like a power lifter. I'm a pro bodybuilder. So people think when they bring their kids to us, like, oh, you guys are just going to have them bodybuild. So just as a segue, about 25 to 30% of our programming is strength training. We do a lot of pillar prep, movement prep, a lot of strength, a lot of speed, energy system development, obviously. Of your programming, how much of it on average, now obviously there's different programming, different days, different modalities. How much of it do you think is strength based? How much do you think is actually resistance training?
Well, it would depend on the different times of the year for us, because the work that we did was highly specialized. But I would say probably 30 to 40% of the work that we did collegiately was in the weight room. Probably 30, sometimes 40% of the work was done in the weight room. Mm-hmm. And of that work, I would say, depending on the year, anywhere from 70 to 30% of that was actually strength work. So, during the off season, when the players come back, it was, what I grew up calling anatomical adaptation. That's what Tuda Bumper called it. But, then the Russians called it GPP, general physical preparation. But, when they come back in January, now the NC2A controls our calendar, and it's not optimal. It's optimal for them and their competitive calendar, but it isn't necessarily optimal for our players' physical development. But we would spend 3 to 4 weeks in general physical preparation, and then we started our off-season training program. And that period was probably 70% strength work of the 30 to 40% of the time that we were in the weight room.
Okay.
And then 30% of it was, the speed strength or power development. And then the closer we got to the season, that emphasis would shift to where the work in the weight room, probably 70% of it was for speed strength, explosive power, and then 30% of it was for actual strength work. And then the more you progress toward the season, the more time that we spent outside training also. But yeah, so I would say we probably spend on a yearly basis an average of 30 to 40% of our time in the weight room, and then 60 to 70% outside, either preparing, doing movement prep, plyos, and preparing to run, and then running.
Yeah, that's good. That's usually what I find is the split for many, or the kind of time allocation for the successful coaches. What I see locally at high school level, and by no means am I dissing high school, because these guys are doing the best they can with their resource. But you walk into a high school gym, and there's two kind of gyms where we're at, because we help a lot of schools. One is literally like, let's cram all the weight equipment we have. We have no floor space. And the next gym will be like, here's some racks, some kettlebells, some mats, whatever. And then we're going to have a bunch of open space. And if I'm given my choice of the I'd rather have minimalist equipment and some open space, because I'm not going to, unless somebody has a foot injury, which we actually dealt with yesterday, I'm not going to put them on an open chain movement like a leg extension. You're not going out on the field and leg extending. Like if I want to work an extension, I'm going to do a squat. I'm going to do something that works that without having that stressor on the ACL. So when you're designing a weight room, and this is something that just kind of came to my head, let's say you have, 10,000, whatever square feet. How much of it is actual strength equipment? How much would you allocate to open space? Would you want everything in a contained area where you could do the movement prep, the pillar prep? Because we got our facility that's being completed right now. We have a temporary one now, which we have a good amount of floor space. But I like being able to have the movement built in where you're not like, okay, time for field time. So are you more of a minimalist when it comes to equipment, obviously with the Olympic lifts, the snatches, this and that? Or are you kind of like, okay, I need all this equipment and I want to pack my weight room as tight as possible?
Yeah. Well, so I'll preface that with my wife builds commercial gyms and high school weight rooms. So we deal with this all the time. Okay. So coaches, they'll want a pec deck or a preacher curl bench or, something like that. And, the first thing that I tell them that you can perform over, and I've got a list of 100 exercises that you can perform with a barbell.
Yep.
But when you buy a pec deck, you can only do one movement with that. So just the cost effectiveness of building out a weight room with power racks and dumbbells and kettlebells is far more functional and cheaper than filling a weight room full of equipment. Now, outside of like glute ham raises or reverse hyper machines and dumbbells and dumbbell benches, the only equipment that we had in our weight room other than racks and barbells was for injured players. Mm-hmm. And that didn't matter what sport that we were training. It didn't matter if it was beach volleyball, gymnastics, or football. Most of your work was performed inside or outside of a power rack.
Yes. With
barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells, body weight exercises. Now in football, we did a lot of horizontal rowing, a lot of horizontal pulls, especially for our linemen, because you can get some posterior, subluxations of the shoulder. So it's important that your upper back is really, really thick and strong and powerful. So, we had some seated low row machines, some chest supported rowing machines, but that was very specific because when you have those linemen like they have in Alabama and Auburn and Tennessee, when those guys, if you have your arm locked out and that upper back isn't super strong, you can run into some problems. And we did a lot of dumbbell rows. We did a lot of inverted rows. So of all the variety, we did a lot of different horizontal pulls and rowing. And then the rest of it was barbells, dumbbells, and kettlebells. And reverse hypers, glute ham raises, Nordic exercises.
Mhm.
So if you looked in our weight room, in all of the weight rooms that I have built myself, and then the ones that I consult with along with my wife, we have a big long rows of racks,
So
and
literally our gym.
without platforms, so we were the first school. So before, when I first started coaching, you had to have a big wooden platform,
Mhm.
in 1980. Even at my university at Tennessee Tech in 1981, we had big wooden platforms that we lifted on. And me as a coach running from place to place, I would trip and stumble and fall. They would move. They were a nightmare to clean. So in 1999, we were going to build a weight room at Miami, and I wanted to do away with the platforms and put inlaid platforms. I wanted to make our platforms out of rubber and put them in the floor. And so we picked a company called Mondo, and Mondo said it couldn't be done. And so I kept working with the architect. I had the architect to okay it. And then I left to come to LSU, and they built the weight room at Miami, and they built the floor like I wanted it, but they bought more big platforms and put in there. So in 2004, we started building a new weight room here, and we spec'd Mondo flooring, and reluctantly Mondo came in and put in their first inlaid platforms that they had ever done.
Wow.
And that allowed us to warm up in the weight room instead of having to go outside, or if the soccer team or the baseball team was using the indoor, we could warm up in the weight room, and we just ran up and down the weight room. And then as the weight room got bigger and bigger and bigger, we had more open areas for doing all the different type of stuff. So I'm a minimalist. I want my platform, my racks, my bumper plates, places to do lots of chin-ups, every kind of chin-up apparatus imaginable, and then glute hams, reverse hypers, and a bunch of dumbbells. We had 2 sets of dumbbells from 5 to 200 pounds. We had kettlebells. We had 3 or 4 sets of kettlebells from 4 pounds up. I think our heaviest kettlebell was 58 kilos. So, that's almost 130 pounds. So we had about 130, almost 130 pound kettlebells. So I love, I don't get real fancy into doing a lot of kettlebell, not for football, but for other sports, yes. But we mainly did a lot of heavy kettlebell, like goblet squats, and part of our teaching progressions and rehab. We did a lot of kettlebell swings. I'm a big believer in teaching the hip hinge, and especially for a sport like football, reinforcing and making sure that those guys are strong hingers. That's super important for the game of football. So yeah, our weight rooms are very simplistic, because again, you can train if you have a power rack with a squat with J hooks on the outside of that rack. You could have someone cleaning if your weight room is big enough and you have enough bars, because I believe in buying lots and lots of barbells.
Yeah.
You could have someone cleaning in the floor, squatting on the outside of the rack, and then benching inside the rack at the same time. And then, whether you're doing, I'm big into unilateral leg exercises. So we would start with split squats and then add, momentum and velocity and movement to it. And we would end up having people, our players, doing real explosive dynamic walking lunges with barbells on their shoulders. So you got to have a big weight room to do that in, and box step ups. And so, yeah, I love a big weight room with, at least a minimum of 2 bars for every rack. If you can afford 3 bars for every rack, you can have a guy doing cleans or deadlifts. You can have a guy doing squats or presses. and then you could have a guy in the rack squatting or benching or doing whatever. And so you're training, you could easily train 5 to 6 guys in a 10 by 10 area or 10 by 12 area versus putting them on one machine and doing one exercise. Makes no sense. I never understood that ever.
That you're preaching to the choir. Yeah, that's so just looking at your programming, there's a question that I always ask people, and it's because of different conflicting information. So are you so deadlifts, they obviously are generating force against the ground. Do you utilize, and obviously you're setting up for Olympic lifts, so you need to do a straight bar deadlift because it's the first step. Are you a big hex bar guy or not?
No. We had them. Some of our sports were. Now, if we had someone coming off of an injury, and there's always those outliers, whether you're doing clean grip deadlifts, conventional deadlifts, sumo deadlifts, there are certain guys that picking the bar. Well, first of all, if you have we recruited guys, if you recruit a 6'6" or 6'7" stiff guy by accident, he's not going to be able to properly grip a bar and get in the correct starting position.
You're right.
To do anything except for maybe a sumo deadlift. So we had boxes and mats where you could raise the bar up, but still sometimes, people call them high cut. But if you have a guy that has a long lower torso and a short upper torso, like I've seen guys, they were built like crickets. They have these long legs and then a little bitty short torso. There's
Tyson Fury.
Yeah, it looks like they're 60-40, or 70-30. These little bitty short torsos, they can never get in a good stance. So we would allow those guys to do trap bar pulls. And I don't have anything against them, but I've always been more of a traditionalist and was going to try a clean grip or conventional grip deadlift, clean pull, sumo deadlift, or even, I tell you, an exercise that I really like a lot, especially with football players, are dumbbell deadlifts. And when you have dumbbells that go up to 200 pounds, you can get some really good work, because when you're in a lot of people train footballs for when they're standing and running around and jumping and catching balls. But when you have two linemen that get in a stance and they're all balled up in a stance, especially two big collegiate, SEC linemen, those guys are in a kind of a compromising position anatomically, and they're supposed to be effective in that position. So I like heavy dumbbell deadlifts from the floor because it forces them to get down in that very similar balled up tight position and lift those dumbbells off the floor. And again, a 400-pound dumbbell deadlift from the floor for 4 sets of 5, that's a hell of a deadlift for a guy.
That is. On another piece. Yeah, go ahead.
But the shorter in stature your lifter is, the easier the dumbbell deadlifts are. So you can put them at a deficit and have them stand on some rubber mats or something. But then, doing those dumbbell deadlifts for young linemen, not going 400 pounds, but working up on dumbbell deadlifts, to me, are a great exercise. And I like dumbbell RDLs, and anything that you do with a barbell, you can do with a dumbbell, and likewise. So you can do dumbbell snatches, dumbbell jerks, dumbbell cleans, dumbbell. So for guys that had broken wrist or broken hands or sprained wrists or hurt elbows or hurt shoulders, we would have them do single arm sumo deadlift. I would rather a guy do a single arm sumo deadlift with a 200-pound dumbbell for sets of 6, 8, or 10, then put them on some machine where they're lying on their back doing something that doesn't necessarily carry over to sports. And you're talking about developing their pillar and core strength and all. We used dumbbells. I tell you something else. I really like center of mass bales.
Mhm.
I really like those Rogue makes.
That's Thompson. That's Donnie's.
Thompson.
Yeah, those are the
Donnie,
fat bills.
Yeah, Donnie's.
Yeah, Donnie's a great dude.
And they get heavy, man.
Yes.
And so you would have, if we were snatching and there's a guy that has an injured wrist, elbow, or shoulder, as long as everything that we did was pain-free, but we would start them with those center of mass bales and have them do muscle snatches with center of mass bales. And then as their shoulder gets better and better and better, we would increase the velocity to where they're doing those center of mass dumbbells or kettlebells, whatever you call them, power snatches. And then we would advance to doing full hang squat snatches with those center of mass bales. And our players and our athletes, not just our football players, but our players love those center of mass bales. So in all of our rehab, we would look for ground-based free weight exercises that we could do with them versus putting them on a leg extension or leg curl machine. We had TRX bands hanging between every rack. We probably had in the gym 25 to including the area upstairs. We probably had 30 TRX bands.
Wow.
So if a guy had a sprained ankle or a hamstring or knee tendonitis, we would start him out on TRX pistol squats. And I would rather a football player do pistol squats, single leg RDLs or reverse hypers on a reverse hyper bench for a lower body injury than lay on their back and do a single leg press.
So true.
Because that's how you don't play the game. There's not a lot of businesses that you're going to make money lying down. Like
I could think of one, but
yeah, that's it. There's no sport. Like maybe maybe there's a prone, in rifling, you lie prone and shoot a gun.
Bobsled,
marbles. What other sport is there where you lie on the ground?
It's the luge. The luge. It's the luge.
Oh, the luge. There you go.
The luge.
Yeah.
That's we're all training for the luge.
You have to sprint on the luge.
You still got to sprint. Yeah. And that's actually, this helps me a lot because I usually in what we do, I deal a lot with the injured people and this helps a lot. So we also have one more thing, and I know you have a lot to do today. So slant boards, I've come to like them. They elevate your heel. I know that.
Yeah.
So Alan Bishop trains a bunch of 8-foot tall basketball players. So he likes to put them on the slant board because of obviously there's as you were talking about the cricket people, like he trains exclusively cricket people, really long legs,
yes,
long torsos too, but legs are ridiculously long. Have you used slant boards in your training? And is it something that you see an application for? Obviously my goal, if someone has poor ankle and calf mobility where they can't get into a deep squat, then we need to address their mobility issues or it's going to lead to an injury. And we can't just use the slant board as a Band-Aid. But as a training tool, do you ever use slant boards? Is it something that you've ever, and this is just something that came to mind because I've come to like them for certain applications, not all. But what are your thoughts on slant boards and their application within athletic training? Well,
so when Nick Saban was our coach here at LSU, the first thing that he told me to do was to buy slant boards for our players. And that was Nick Saban.
Wow.
So when you train a bunch of gigantic people who didn't start training with weights until they were 12, 14, 16, and sometimes And still to this day, we have guys that show up at LSU that have never touched the barbell before they got here, believe it or not. So, yeah, slant boards were huge. So we actually, we had a bunch made out of metal. They were heavy. So before you could buy them out of the foam, we had them all made out of metal. But yeah, so I like the slant boards. I think it's great. And then, so my oldest son had a couple of knee injuries in high school and then in college. And so he found the knee over toe guy.
Yeah.
And he and the knee over toe guy got pretty tight, through text. And so my son came over one time and said, Dad, now I know why you have the slant board. So we have slant boards in our house, in our garage gym. And I tell you something else I like also is the bob. Have you ever heard of the bob?
I do not. Do you know the bob?
I've heard of it. I've never.
Yeah, check out the bob. The bob is it is for ankle mobility and for strengthening the calf and the psoas muscles. And you can do a lot with the bob. It's called the bob. Wow. So yeah, I believe I like slant boards. I think slant boards definitely have a place, whether it's for hip mobility, hamstring mobility, or ankle and lower leg mobility. I think it has a definite place. If not, like you said, if not sometimes as a Band-Aid, but as an everyday modality for certain populations of people.
We use the hell out of it to target the VMO. For those of you that's vastus medialis. Also, full transparency, I do kind of, so the slant board guy, one of my companies, Vorlo Fulfillment, we do the third-party logistics for him. So we handle all shipping of the slant board within the U.S.
Yeah, well, good.
So, but I was a big fan of the slant board before that relationship, even before knees over toe guy was a thing. Because it's funny, I don't know if you see this, but I've been doing lateral, linear, backward sled drags since the beginning of time, since I started training people in 2000, right? Like, I'm getting old. And all of a sudden, like, I posted an Instagram video just doing a reverse sled drag. I didn't even know he did it. And I didn't read his book at that time. Someone was like, oh, you're copying knees over toes guy. I'm like, wait a second, he didn't invent this. I'm like, there's a sled drag. He did not invent the sled drag. So, but what I love is that the things that we've been doing in our niche, because of people like, I think his name is Patrick, knees over toes guy, and our guy over at Slantboard, our Slantboard guy. What I love is that I don't care if I get credit for it, if, the knees over toes guy get credit for it. I just want people to perform well and not get injured. So I'm like, cool, I stole it. You got it. That's where I'm at. And that's why, we post all this information, and I had a video team come out and be like, oh, you're going to let them film your session. Like, what if people copy it? I'm like, good. The training in our area, and I mean this in all sincerity, it's really not that good. And in our opinion. So if they copy us, I think that's a good thing, because I want these kids to succeed. I don't know about you, but I get happy if I train a kid or not. If a kid gets a D1 scholarship and goes through their high school career not getting injured, I'm like, dude, yes, that kid's one step closer to reaching their goals and their dreams. So I don't, we provide our service, you provide your service. At the end of the day, man, I just want to see kids and people succeed and be pain-free and prosper. And that's, I think, why we all started doing this. Obviously, we all have this passion and love for performance and seeing what the human body can do, and all the new research and data that we never had before. We never had all the research that Flaherty did at Nike and all these cool things that Gary Reinhold did with icing. You look at where technology is coming, like you bring out a bag of ice to some schools and they'll stab you because of the work that Gary did with iced and with what his research and just his passion for recovery. So what I'm getting at is that it is truly an honor to hear your methodologies, and we greatly appreciate this time. And everybody who's watching this, hopefully they got so much information, because right now I'm thinking, yesterday I did a fixed movement for a girl who presented with a foot injury. And I'm like, wait a second, we could have done something differently. And that's the thing about being a good coach is you probably learn every day. We all can be better. So if you're a coach and you're listening to this and you take 1% of this could change, this could be a game changer for you. And this is just such an honor to have you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me on and letting me talk about the Moffitt method and talk a little training. I mean, this is what I love, to do. I'm going hunting. I have a big pig that's on my property, so I'm going to go hunting this afternoon and shoot a pig. And
I love this.
I like it.
That's about that's about it for me on a daily basis is training and hunting and riding my bike. And so I appreciate you letting me come on.
Man, it is an honor and pleasure. I know I'll take this, but anyway, man, thank you so much for joining us. Bryce, we could take these questions. None of them are really for him. I know you have a ton going on. So as soon as I get your information, if it's not there, it will be there. All of your information, how can people get a hold of you right now?
Yeah. So a couple of different ways. So one, just like y'all did, you can go to at Tommy Moffitt on Twitter or Instagram, or you can go to the Moffitt Method on Instagram and Twitter. And then we have our website. We have a landing page for the website right now, and it's themoffittmethod.fit. So you can get to our website or our landing page that way. If you have any questions or you're interested in the Moffitt method, you can leave your name, email address, and phone number, and someone from our company will contact you regarding that. And then you can email me at, I think, I have a new email address. I think it's tmoffitt@themoffittmethod.fit, but that might not be it. I haven't used it yet because it's brand new.
Yeah, check the show notes. I will have this listed on every platform.
Get to me through Twitter and Instagram, both my personal accounts and the Moffitt Method accounts for sure, without a problem. And then my email address, I'm going to give you my old LSU email address because I know that works. And it's J as in James, MOFFI, 1 at LSU.edu.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, sir. And so we're going to stay on a little bit, but thank you so much. And I'll have everything up, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon. This is amazing.
Thank you very much, guys. And please tell everyone in Middle Tennessee that I said hello.
Absolutely, we will. And if you're ever out here, man, kava on me. I'm a big kava guy. That's my place to eat. It's like upscale. It's like rich people Chipotle. You'll love it.
Yeah, I'll be there.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Take care, sir. All right. So we're here for wow. I had to close out. I know he has. I feel so bad taking so much of his time, but I just wanted to say that I don't think you guys understand how amazing it is to have someone like Coach
that
Moffitt.
Caliber.
I mean, it is absolutely astounding, insane. Can't say. I mean, wow. I'm literally standing here, and I don't know if you guys. And if you guys have any questions, ask them now. We're going to go ahead and answer some questions. If you have them, if you don't, we'll just go. We got stuff to do, right? Yeah. I have my 4:00 board meeting. So anyway, I just want to answer questions. I don't like leaving any questions unanswered. If you've ever been a part of this channel before, that was the best of the best. That was the cream of the crop. That is going to be hard to top. I'm almost kind of mad that we had like the guy as our first freaking podcast. Nobody cursed, which means that we don't have to get demonetized by YouTube. And I don't plan on cursing right now. But Bryce, I learned as someone who does this every day of my life and who's done it every day in some capacity, I learned so much there and also validated a lot of what we do, which is actually cool because his training is within 10% of what we do.
Yep. It's that's the second time I've talked to him.
He's so good.
I think it just puts a lot in perspective for everyone else. I think that's besides us and like what we do. but I think it gives everyone else a lot more information and insight of what you're going to end up doing in college, no matter the sport. So I think that was, it was phenomenal.
Well, you hope you do what he does in college, because that guy creates championship teams. Yes, he is the man. So let's answer that. I've been looking at this the whole time, Brian, and hopefully you're still on. If you're not, hopefully this helps other people. My son is a senior in high school and plays football and lifts weights a lot. Seems to be a lot of boys focusing on trying to find the right supplements to get the edge. What are your thoughts on young players and supplements? And Bryce, I would hate to be the guy to just take the mic on this, but I'm going to do it, and it's not going to be what you expect. I see a huge, a very troubling trend going on in schools, and I want to address that here. And I might actually clip this out and make it its own clip, because there's a lot of things, a lot of topics we went over that I'm going to make their own video for this podcast. A lot of kids are taking SARMs. A lot of kids are on some form of oral or injectable steroids. And I'm seeing that locally, and I'm seeing locally a huge increase in SARM usage. And what SARMs are, they're not steroids. I'm not even going to define them. It's a long word. Basically, what they do is they will suppress you, and they could lead to long-term damage. But because they're available in the gray market over the counter, a lot of these kids are taking it. And it is very troubling to me to see that. Now, I'm not saying your kid's going to take that, but I'm going to be really simple, really easy. If you have a kid in high school and in college, you know what? They're 18 plus. They can make choices. There's a lot of safe, effective supplements out there. In high school, there's only one supplement I think every kid needs, and that's assuming they get adequate protein, a gram per pound of body weight in their diet, adequate carbohydrate and fat to fuel their performance as athletes, and that's creatine. That's the only supplement I recommend anybody takes. You know, if you want to get your kid a good vitamin like Immortal, that's fine. It's a vitamin. It's like adult Flintstones, whatever, if you want to look at it like that. But at the end of the day, I think we don't need to focus on much as a teenager other than getting adequate calories, healthy nutrition, hydration, electrolytes. Make sure that they have electrolytes, especially if they're sweating a lot and they're playing ball. And if you want, it will help you. It is safe and effective, creatine. But to be dead honest with you, I'm seeing a very disturbing trend locally. And I know it's going on nationally because I have kids DM me every day about SARMs and all that other crap. And I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. My kids will never go near that stuff. And the kids that I know that tell me they're taking it, I do my best to not sound like that angry old man yelling at clouds. I do my best to just tell them that gaining 5 pounds of lean mass now isn't worth the side effects, the gyno, and the potential infertility that comes down the line. Because sometimes your body comes back, sometimes it doesn't. So I highly, and also we don't know what SARMs do. The data on SARMs were on about 3 milligrams, and the pills they're taking are about 50. So it's dose and duration, and it's one of those things where I'm going to just say, don't. Yeah, that's all. Just creatine. Yep. Creatine. If you have to, you know what? My kids are pretty simple. My daughter, she can't eat enough protein. She doesn't have a big appetite, especially during the season. If you've ever done a hard leg workout and tried eating afterwards, it's not always easy for a lot of people. My daughter's life is literally one leg workout. Like, she goes from training to training to training. My son has multiple sports. My daughter will have, most of her protein comes from ambrosia planta, not because she's vegan, just because she has a sensitive stomach and whey does not agree with her. My son, he eats plenty of protein, but he'll sometimes have an MTS whey shake, and they eat a good amount of outright bars around their training. So, but that's food, right? Like, that's not a marketing pitch. That's literally what my kids eat. And then my kids, for immunity, they do take ambrosia nectar. I like that. And they take Vita and they take Immortal. But other than that, dude, you don't need performance enhancing supplements when you're literally a teenager at the highest peak of your testosterone production, right?
Yep.
Advice for college students looking to be a college strength coach: be prepared to make very little money.
Come intern with us.
Yeah. I mean, honestly,
I've done that.
And I've done high school and club level, which is honestly where a lot of college people end up going because it pays more.
Yeah.
But we do our own stuff now. So,
in all honesty, you're going to have to find an internship, start building your resume. Literally, not even kidding. Send me your resume. Not hard. And you're gonna have to work for free.
This is YouTube, man. This guy could be in Iceland.
Yeah, that's true. Who cares?
But
Been there.
I think a good mentorship. For example, Andrew Hubbard, who's not in the training area anymore, but he actually interned with Dr. Stu. And that Dr. Stu internship, when you intern with somebody, you're basically getting all their qualifications. So Dr. Stu was Exos and Z Health, and he's a licensed chiropractor. Like the guy has every certification known to man. And, you know, when you train with someone like with us building our program, you know, I think that's a thing. Does he have a LinkedIn? I'm guessing you're talking Moffitt. Not sure, but DM him on any of the things go on Instagram, DM him. And if he has a LinkedIn, he'll give it to you. But yeah, do I have a LinkedIn? So I do. It's everything I do is Mark Lobliner.
Yep, that's true. Yeah,
except for YouTube. That's Tiger Fitness because it was an accident. I think that does it. So guys, really appreciate you guys joining in. Tell your friends about this podcast will be available on Spotify. It will be available on YouTube. It's obviously on Facebook. If anybody still uses Facebook, who's under 80 years old and just wants to argue about Trump and Hillary still. Dude, Facebook, I posted that. Oh God, you guys are getting some ADHD going on right now.
Oh yeah.
So I went on Facebook and I posted. Now, just for the record, like I read the Bible every day, but I'm not Christian. I am Jewish by descent, but I don't have a said religion. You know what I mean? Like I believe in God. I believe in some higher being, whether it's the universe, God, Buddha, I believe in something bigger than us. So I posted it on Facebook and it was like, hey, you know what? Here's a life hack. Read the Bible daily. Didn't say why. Dude, the vitriol on Facebook was insane. Instagram was fine. Instagram's like, it was either like, oh, God's not real. Okay, cool. You know, or like, oh, yes, praise Jesus. Cool. Love that too. Facebook's like, you dirty Jew, you rotten hell. I'm like, whoa. Well, so now I realize, so what I do is I cross post on Facebook and I'll go in occasionally and just filter. I'll answer some comments and delete the bad ones or ban people. Mm-hmm. And I realized why I stopped using Facebook. Facebook is literally the hell of social media. It is the cesspool of social media. It is literally like take the dirtiest, nastiest porta potty you've ever been in. That's Facebook. Facebook is the one where people somehow poop on the seat. You know, on that note, Bryce, wow, whoa. So I'm going to go through this. It might take me a while. I have a job and stuff. I'm going to go through this and I'm going to clip out the good parts and I'm going to make them their own video. But wow, if you watch this end piece, which you probably won't because it's been completely unhinged, this was one of the coolest podcasts I've not only been in, but that I've listened to. And I was in it. And if you could see our arms, like I still got goose pimples. Like that guy, I don't think, if you kids don't realize what a legend this guy is, like this guy, University of Miami, University of Tennessee, LSU. Wow. Well, and not one curse word.
Yeah. Well, and other thing, think of the last 10 years at LSU, all the dudes that are in the pros right now.
That's him.
That was him.
That's him. All right, guys. So thank you so much for watching. This is, you got to say the name.
The Legacy Project.
The Legacy Project. We're helping you build the best you ever. Coaches, athletes, parents, send this to all of your friends. If you have kids and you want them to get better at life, if you want them to perform well, if you want them to not get injured, you need to listen to this podcast. It will be native to the Tiger Fitness channel on YouTube, but it will be under the Legacy Project playlist. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to link that in every single show note. And on that note, we out.